from the criminal justice system and some of our victim advocates in the back like Terry, because too many times we know that some of these cases fall through the court system because the victim is reluctant to prosecute. So it's a very complex issue that we have to continue to work with all of our partners to ensure that we don't only respond to the calls, but that we're also there to support the emotional needs of the victims who are left behind, to ensure that we could help them get to a place where they're safe and they're able to go in life forward without the individual that has been abusing them. This year, we've had 5 homicides that are related to domestic violence. That's approximately 10% of our homicides. And every one of those is one too many. Because of many times in some of the cases we look at this year, there was that history in the past that we were just unable to help that victim escape that lifestyle and how they were being victimized by an individual. We also had another case where it was deemed a justifiable homicide, where the person, to protect themselves, took an intimate partner's life as they were discussing divorce. So it's a very complex issue. It's something that APD can't do alone. We're glad that the commission is here. We'll continue to give resources as available. It's always difficult because a couple weeks ago we were asked why we didn't have open space. And one of the things I've said is we need to bring more resources in places like DV. We've really relied on bringing collateral programs to the city. It's working for us in open space. I know they're trying to grow the collateral program with the DV side of investigations, and we are also looking to make some other changes. But with that, I think I turn it over to Deputy Chief Barker, and she will talk a little bit about some of the changes and things they're doing.
Good morning, everybody. Really quickly, I just want to thank all of the individuals on the commission and all of our partners for the work that each one of you put together to protect victims and survivors of domestic violence. Today I want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing as a police department to work with our providers to provide services to victims. Domestic violence doesn't only impact victims, but our entire community. We often see cycles of domestic violence within families that continue to grow. What this might look like is children at school who are having a hard time focusing. It might be a child who is acting out. And we're encouraging those who might see these actions to talk to children and talk to family members and reach out and provide resources. Year to date, the Albuquerque Police Department has seen 9,143 calls for service involving domestic violence. Our department continues to be committed to addressing this issue. And some of the things that we have done is we have Commander Hartstock, who he oversees our impact teams who investigate felony domestic violence cases. All felony domestic violence cases are assigned to impact detectives. What that looks like is 99%. However, that 1% is going to be a case that is just misclassified. So any domestic violence case that raises to the felony level is going to be investigated by a detective within his team. We also have DV coordinators with the advocacy unit, and this year they've attempted to contact 2,232 victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So I just want to take a minute to thank Pastor. He's a great resource, and we appreciate the work that you do. We are also, the coordinators compile information for cases and send them to our partners at the district attorney's office, and we work very closely with them throughout the case to make sure that victims understand the process. We have a DART team, like Chief mentioned. It's Domestic Abuse Response Team. We currently have 13 officers who are part of this team, and we have positions open for 7 additional. So by the end of next month, we are hoping to have 20, and they're out in the field services, and they receive specialized training and work closely with our partners to take these types of calls. We are also in the process of hiring a domestic violence liaison who will be a direct point of contact for our providers, so that if they have questions about cases that are being investigated, they'll have that direct point of contact who can guide them in the right direction. And lastly, we're working closely with Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Commission. I was there yesterday and able to provide some information to them, and they asked the hard questions that need to be asked because they're looking out for victims, as are we, and we look forward to continue working with you as our partners. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Deputy Chief. And now what we'd like to do is we're going to hand it over to some folks who are on our commission, actually one in particular. But I also want to thank all the commission members. Thank you so much for being here and for your work as part of the commission. I think people are pretty familiar in this particular environment who's on the commission, but it's wonderfully representative in terms of Native American communities. And also, we have SANE, of course, and we have different folks also from our Asian community. And so I'm not going to list everyone's name and their position, but we're very grateful that these communities not only fought for, and these advocacy organizations fought for representation, but that they're also showing up and they're pushing the city and they're pushing the department. And that's also coordinated by Isis Roybal, who's also our coordinator. So we really appreciate having her on the team. And Chief did mention Terry, who plays an important role in this world, our victims advocate, and of course Bev McMillan, who runs this facility here. These individuals some of them have been doing this a long time, some of them are new to the city, some of them have been doing it in other capacities, and now are doing it through either our police department or the city. But we're grateful to have them, and I hope they reflect an investment in how important this issue is. And so a piece of that is, of course, the commission, which we are looking at to broaden in terms of its actual formal engagement with even the DA's office and BCSO. So we're going to be proposing some minor changes to continue to make sure we have the right folks in the room. But with that, I also want to thank the DA's office. There's some folks here from that who work on this issue. Appreciate you being here today. So with that and more on the commission, let's hear from Bonnie Escobar from Enlace. Bonnie.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bonnie Escobar, and I'm the Executive Director for Enlace Comunitario. We're a local nonprofit whose mission is to provide wraparound intervention and prevention services to victims of domestic violence, focused primarily on the Latinx and immigrant communities. For over 23 years, Enlace has bridged service gaps for DV survivors by providing culturally and linguistically specific wraparound services. But I also want to acknowledge the other partners in the room. And I hope that the media can put this on a slide when they're doing the story this evening, because all of these services are for victims of domestic violence and they're free for anybody in the community. So one is the Domestic Violence Resource Center, Safe House, which is a shelter, the Family Advocacy Center that's here today, the Family Asian Center, the Coalition to Fight Violence Against Native Women, and for Rio Rancho residents, Haven House. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge that there are many providers here in this community that provide free and safe services for victims of domestic violence. So we're grateful to partner with the commission, with law enforcement, to help reduce and educate the public about domestic violence. And we appreciate APD's commitment to addressing DV cases thoroughly and in participating in ongoing training around domestic violence. Domestic violence is a complicated, layered issue. DV is about power and control, and maintaining both through repeated acts of violence. Violence can be physical, sexual, verbal, psychological, and financial. DV can happen to anybody. No one segment of the population is immune from DV or its effects. DV is not the fault of the victim nor any dependent children in the household. For many reasons, DV victims often cannot simply leave a situation. So I also encourage the public, if somebody discloses to you that they're a victim of domestic violence, the number one thing is to believe them. But secondly, ask them to reach out to one of the partners that's here so that they can safely leave the situation. What we know is that when somebody leaves a violent situation, it is the most dangerous time, not only for the victim, but also especially for law enforcement. So doing it safely and carefully is critical. So this is why safety planning is critical, and any one of the agencies that I mentioned, and also law enforcement, can help somebody develop a safety plan. The most dangerous time is when they leave because they have taken the power and control away from the abuser. This is the time when the victim is at most risk for retaliation. Listening, affirming, and believing DV victims are acts of solidarity that everyone can support. Allies can also refer to victims to connect them to local organizations. Enlaces and all the other agencies that I mentioned are, once again, I just want to reiterate that our services are free. Victims know what is best for them, and we are here to help them achieve their goals and to outline their service plans. Thank you very much.
Might be more appropriate to do pull-asides, but we'll just see. Does anyone have questions right now?
The main question I just have, did we mention the DA's office and how we're working to make sure that the violent offenders especially stay behind bars? How is that a working relationship of, how do you communicate that to the DA's office that this case is a priority to make sure that they need to file for pretrial detention?
You know, I'm going to turn it over to Commander Hartsock, but one of the things we talked about recently is that earlier this year we moved our SHIELD unit into the DA's office. One of the reasons we moved the SHIELD unit into the DA's office is we wanted to build detention cases stronger from the very beginning, not just for DV, for homicide, ag assaults, for all the dangerous individuals who are out in the community. And Deputy Chief, Commander Hartsock could give you some information on some of the early success that they're seeing with the SHIELD unit and our ability to ask for detention.
Commander, let me just, because we drop SHIELD a lot, why don't you remind everyone what the unit is?
So my name is Commander Kyle Hartsock. SHIELD, just real quick, for those who don't know, is a group of professional staff that's been around since about 2018 here at APD that helps provide all of the discovery, which means all the police reports and evidence over to prosecutors and to the courts. Back in March of this year, we moved that team into the DA's office, so they physically occupy space there, so now prosecutors have direct access to this team. It is monumentally sped up the ability for prosecutors to get the information they need, and it helps on DV. Not only is it helping prosecutors get that information, but one of the important things that Pastor's group does is every morning after an arrest is made, right? The 911 call happened, police responded, a physical custodial arrest was made, or the offender left, but the officers forward the report. We're calling the victims that morning, the next morning. We're passing off the information to the DA's office so they can call the victims. The DA, a prosecutor being able to engage with a victim the next morning, because they have to make that detention decision so quick, is vitally important. So they can have the most accurate information. Is there anything else that the police report didn't have that you can tell us now? What does the victim want from this? You know, we missed that part. What is the victim, what outcome do they want from police involvement and criminal justice involvement? Those questions get asked, and we're giving that information to the DA's office generally by 10 a.m., 11 a.m. the next day. So that helps detain more persons in there. And Pastor and his group and SHIELD also see that there might be other police reports that exist that haven't resulted in charges. The prosecutor's office can't see that. We can. So we're telling them that. Just so you know, this offender is also listed in this other case. Maybe it's a shoplifting case. Maybe it's a DWI, something that maybe hasn't hit the court system yet. So SHIELD helps make sure the prosecutor gets the most information they can, and we're starting to see the detention numbers go up, not just for DV, for all crimes. And we associate a lot of that with we're just giving better information to them.
Any others? Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.